Alright, folks, hello and welcome back to Downstage Gaming. I'm your host, Josh, and this is part 46 of our Let's Play of The Letter. When we last left off with Mr. Terrible here, we had started basically right where Hannah's chapter had ended, and we sort of saw some genuine care from Luke throughout. He's worried about Hannah, but also, it seems like primarily worried about losing her. And then we had the bit where Zachary showed up, and we got mad at him, and then he broke in, and so we sort of had a real power trip and some real nasty things to say to a sort of unconscious Zachary. And I think we are just now heading to the police station here. So once I'm done breaking my fast, and after a cool shower, I call for... Now, I still don't quite know how to say... I know that's an umlaut above the O, but I'm not quite sure how you say it. Call for Shrokin, to drive me to the police station so that I can give my statement. Through it all, Hannah still slumbers, sleeping off whatever illness has taken her. The ride to the precinct is a quiet affair. Well, I'm very excited if we get to if we get to experience getting water thrown in our face from Luke's perspective. I'm in no mood for idle chatter with what little sleep I've had. Not everything is smooth sailing, however, as soon as I arrive at the precinct either. But as they say, a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. It would be more suspicious if everything had gone on without ruckus. And it would be more boring, too. Because who doesn't love a good fight and a bit of drama? Well, you got me there, Luke. Who doesn't love a good fight and a bit of drama? There's nothing quite like beating your opponent down and making them learn who's the boss. If life just slumped over, there'd be no point in even trying, but I would be much happier if the troubles life threw at me didn't include ruining my suit. Life, in this case, is that estate agent, Lily, who had the audacity to throw water at me.
You bloody...
It's been a pleasure doing business with you, sir.
Oh, I love her so much. Who even does that? That third world countrywoman who's gotten too big for her britches, that's who. This is a Zeiton X5 and this whole ensemble cost me £40,000. I could charge her for water damages to the tie alone and have her begging down on her knees for my forgiveness. That Lily girl, really now. If I hadn't heard that the company she works for was closing, I'd talk to her manager and have her fired. Graceful exit into the police chief's room was all I could muster in the face of such insult. My mood is further soured by the fact that I can still see the rest of the precinct from here. At the very least, Johans is making himself useful and standing outside the door to make sure no one enters unannounced. And now, here I am, dabbing a handkerchief at my wetsuit, to no avail. It'd have to be given to one of those maids to clean as soon as I get home. This is just horrible. The interlining is going to pucker and pull. Ugh. I do wonder if he would have enjoyed getting punched more. If in some way that wouldn't have been a choice that would have made him happier, weirdly. But at least it's not wine, I suppose.
I'm so sorry about what happened out there, mate.
Yeah, I bet you are, Lee.
But you know how it is with these officers. All testosterone and ranking.
Uh-huh, and what are you made of?
Well, you need to learn how to keep your men in line better, mate. But I didn't come here to talk about these hot-headed daft bellends. They could be dead from the neck up for all I care.
He has the propensity to forget one tiny detail. I own him. I want to seethe and rage, remind him who exactly the boss here is. I very well can, thanks to the wonders of soundproofing. But the stressed and nervous expression on his face stops me from giving him a tongue lashing. It would really do me no good to be at odds with me when he does prove to be a useful ally from time to time. So I listen when he speaks, focusing on the smell of coffee and cigarettes that fill the room in order to curb my tongue. For now. But boy, when you let a man like Harvey Lee speak, he speaks a lot.
Look, all I'm asking is that you be a bit patient with them. You do realize a good chunk of them don't work. They aren't with you, so to speak.
They aren't in your pocket. They aren't sucking on your beehole, you know? Their noses aren't quite as brown as mine.
Bunch of kids who think the police are superheroes or some cock and bull. They don't know how things work around here. Especially that Frey boy. The lot of them are just tired.
And why are you telling me this?
Because I want you to have some sympathy for me, sir. Please. I'm so tired.
I was going to ask you if you knew anything about it. Perhaps one of yours know. There's been a string of unfortunate incidents as of late. There's been a string of unfortunate incidents as of late. Just recently, some bloke named Christian C was acting all nuts.
Okay, so we got a second read on that line along with the additional bit.
Off his rocker, that man. And we had to hold him, thought he was drunk. Up until he started bashing his brains in.
Yeah, and we know from last chapter that that's one of the BRC employees.
Now he's a vegetable in a hospital bed. Another time, some Mark Julius was reported missing. Some are thinking we've got a serial killer on our hands as of late.
I don't think we've heard of a Mark Julius.
That Cooper lady from BRC got done in, and a Father Norman, too.
Oh, okay.
You have to understand, mate. In a place as peaceful as Luxburn, this makes people wary. Reported crime rates go a bit higher than usual, and it makes them antsy and temperamental.
What I'm saying is you need to calm down with the serial murder here, mate. I mean, like, 1 or 2 every now and again is fine, but this is getting out of hand.
Are you implying that I have anything to do with them? Because as much as I hate to say it and admit, I am out of the loop. This is the first I've heard of these incidents.
The first you've heard? That's surprising. That is honestly surprising. Really, I'd say I'm insulted, but this is par for the course. Harvey knows who and what I am. We have a deal of sorts, after all. Crime is always expected in a society with laws and with humans who are allowed their free will. Why not strike a deal with the devil to make sure that said crime has some order, at least?
Ah, well, that's a shame, I suppose. Figured if we could get any leads, it'd be from you.
I can't stop the scoff that leaves me. Can these police officers really be so incompetent? The chief of the damn police force seems to find it amusing, however. Because as far as I can see, whether he believes it or not, he's got it easy in our little deal. He just has to sit back and relax, let me do my thing, and not turn against me while he gets to live a comfy life. But perhaps that's why I haven't killed him off yet. His predecessor to the position wasn't so agreeable.
You know, someday I'll stop turning in my own men when they piss me off. And what will you do then? You and your men will all be lost without me.
I'll just hope that when the time comes, I'll already be all wrinkly and retired then.
I really don't. I mean, I get that they're trying to make a kind of argument here that, like, better the devil you know. But, like, I'm not quite sure I understand why Lee has agreed to this. It's a play of his, it always is, to act all casual and chuckling at everything like it doesn't faze him. Pretends he's one of those kind, wise old men types so that people can't bring themselves to be angry at him. But I've seen him drunk off his arse, bemoaning his fate, what he's become, though he tries to be as vague as he can, even in his inebriated state. And I've seen the malice this man is capable of. That's why it confuses me with how he reacts to what I say next.
So what is our little gollywog looking at?
Now, there's never a time or place for that kind of racist talk, son.
Well, you know, Lee, it's good to know you have some backbone, and it's also good to know that whatever that freaking word was is something I should never say. He cuts me off in a firm tone before I can say anything further. You know, Lee, you may be terrible in most things, but at least you got one thing going for you. There is steel in his eyes, and he near slam his fist on the table when he does. I can't help but sigh, realizing that he's going through one of his self-righteous streaks, rare as they may be.
You know our little deal ties up my hands when it comes to a lot of things with you, but I hear that Steele is a good kid, and I ask you at least show a bit of respect.
He's a felon. I think I'm entitled to call him what I please. I don't owe him any respect at all.
In my pocket, he may be, but he still chose the path of the policeman himself when he was a young man. I bet it just boils his blood that he has to deal with the likes of me. But I, in turn, hate this side of him that makes him think he's still some do-gooder, some hero of justice. Because spineless fools were useful. Self-righteous ones forced me to do away with them eventually.
You put plenty of your own white men in jail. I don't see you calling them a... I don't know, white cracker or whatever lingo they have nowadays.
Whatever they're calling them.
And if not respect, you can at least owe the lad some basic human decency.
True.
Whatever. But if you gotta stick up your ass about it, I'll concede. He's going behind bars either way, for however long that is.
Besides, what does it matter if he's black or white? I hate all people equally. The color of his skin doesn't change anything about current circumstances. Yes. Surely the color of his skin isn't at all going to change how he deals with law enforcement. It's a trifle matter to argue over.
It's 6 months and a fine worth 5,000 for breaking and entering.
That's pretty bad. That's not great.
Unless you'd be willing to go easy on the guy. Let him bump it down to a misdemeanor and juvenile offense. We'll be giving him probation and charge him for the damages.
And that's it.
That's it. That's what a white man gets, and that's what he gets too. Unless you're going to stir up a fuss and make a big deal out of this.
In case you've forgotten, I do what I want, Lee. I don't even see why you protect the man. He's nothing but a petty thief.
And won't that look bad on you? The Luke Wright, getting his panties in a bunch over a petty thief. You said it yourself. He's nothing. Not worth your attention or effort.
Okay, alright. You know, maybe I'm starting to see what Lee's got going on here. That maybe Lee is not as powerless in this situation as I had initially assumed.
So why don't you just let me handle it like I'm supposed to?
And I do hate to say it, but he's got me there. I hate that all this power comes with a great balancing act. Be too lax, and people think they could get away with the smallest things. Be too harsh, and people will... Well, they'll not want to work with me for long, and that's never a good thing in the long term. And it shows on me poorly if I were to fuss over such an insignificant little maggot.
Now, is that all you're here for?
Well, there is another thing I want to ask.
Can't I visit a friend? That detective. Feathers. Should I be concerned about him? He seemed keen.
Feathers? Oh, you mean Frey?
Oh, the coach. Yeah, I guess. That's a pretty stupid nickname, Luke, if I'm being totally honest.
Nah, he's not really anything to worry about. I got him assigned to your case to make the whole thing believable. The boy's a good detective, one of the best I have on the force, but he won't be able to do shit with all the red tape tying him up. In fact, the higher-ups just took him off your tail.
The case against me? I still have one? Harvey, my dear old friend. Have you been slacking off?
Have you been a naughty boy?
Surely I told you to take care of that sort of thing. Surely it shouldn't have taken you this long. Surely it should be quiet by now on your end.
He literally just said that it's fine. Can you calm
They shouldn't
down?
be assigning anything to what's supposed to be a cold case.
I doubt you've got anything to really worry about unless you go out there and announce the shit you've done. They don't want to accuse the most powerful man in Luxburn without being 100% sure about things, of course.
The way he goes about it so nonchalantly.
But it's because of that company problem Suarez been talking about. Can't believe that's still a thing. You think the geek would have figured it out by now? He's supposed to be a computer genius. Don't go blaming me for it. He's the one slacking off if you ask me. Don't you be pointing fingers my way.
And has Suarez mentioned anything new about that?
You'd have to ask him about it. You know I don't understand half the technical computer mumbo-jumbo the guy goes on about.
I think I remember this being the thing that they were talking about at the housewarming party during Ashton's chapter.
It's like the guy speaks a whole other language. Which, technically he does, but you know what I mean.
Yes, I suppose you have a point. Very well, if you haven't got anything else useful for me, I might as well head home. Get some bloody peace and quiet.
I could have some tea, maybe with some whiskey and a nap, and I'll be as right as rain. At least one of us should get some good R&R, because it looks like Harvey isn't going to get any. Not with the commotion that started up outside the room. From inside the office, we can both clearly see something's come up. And opening the door lets the din of the place flood in with officers going about and phones ringing up the storm.
Looks like your children are in need of their minder, Harvey. Whatever could this be?
What in blazes is going on here? What's that fucking fire?
And where's my fucking extinguisher?
There's been a jumper, Chief.
Some guy. You know, I don't want to brag, but I did get to play some guy in the letter, and I thought I did a pretty good job. It's utter madness as callers ring in all about it. A jumper in Luxburn? If I weren't so tired, I'd have given it more interest. You'd probably be interested if you knew who it was. Besides, going by what the officers on the phone are saying, it's probably far too late for the poor soul. They already gone splat, and all lines are clogged with the distressed and the busybodies. It's not every day you hear about such things in this city. Or at least it's not every day I hear about a jumper that I haven't caused. As if on cue, Harvey glances my way with a tight expression on his face. I have to shake my head at him to say, no, this one isn't mine, before I leave him to his pets. Oh, God, it's so fun to be Luke Wright. Let's see what we got picture-wise here. Yeah, I love it still. Okay. Stepping down from the chaos, I let in a breath of fresh air, or as fresh as it's gonna get in a city. I do hate going to the precinct. It's a fucking zoo filled with animals, people who step in included. But it's not like the city isn't any better. Humans are just a higher form of animals after all. We all delude ourselves into thinking otherwise. Luke Wright is the kind of guy you have in your freshman philosophy class that really thinks he's got it all down and has a very pessimistic view on humanity. But he's just flat out wrong and stupid. I call up the car to take me away from it all. Though I can't bring myself to step inside the house when I do get home. Hannah still rests, I assume. I hear nothing to say otherwise. Not her voice or her laughter, which will easily fill in any space with cheer. And you don't care enough to go look? Okay, look. Everything is quiet, other than the hum of engines from the car being brought away. A bird's cry off from the garden, snapping me out of my reverie, and makes me look in that direction. It's an easy decision to go there. If Hannah is resting, recovering from sickness, I don't want to disturb her with how agitated and annoyed I am underneath the surface. No matter how well hidden, I can keep it. Not to mention, I've been neglecting the garden for too long. Might as well stay put out there for the time being. Gray skies loom over in the horizon, though the sun fights for every precious minute it gets to stay. It'll rain again soon, with the winds bringing along the gloomy clouds normal to Luxbourne. Until then, it doesn't hurt to be out here for fresh air and sunshine. I walk to the gardens, with little of it there, what little of it is there at the moment anyway, and kneel by the daffodils. These were the first to be brought here and planted on my request, and if nothing else, they brought in a sense of peace. They were Mother's favorites. Closing my eyes, I lift my chin up to welcome the light that shines upon me. And for a minute, I can imagine myself as one of the flowers, peaceful, blooming, and all too happy to stand in its warmth. Life would be much easier if we were all like flowers, wouldn't it? We'd all certainly be less racist and causing people to commit suicide, apparently. But I didn't step out here to get all philosophical. I have problems much more practical than figuring out the meaning of life, after all. Too many things have gone on these past few days, and I want to forget about them, even for just a moment. You have hardly thought about them,
It's
so
almost
sure.
all saints, isn't it? To think I've almost forgotten.
I speak the words absent-mindedly. The date means nothing to me, as I neither worship the religion nor have any graves to visit. After all, Mother was never given a proper burial. But it's a date, as good as any, for me to grieve. Otherwise, I would have done so every single day, crippling myself and shutting everyone else out. I can remember how the flames licked at her flesh and how it consumed her body until there was nothing left but ash. I mean, I'm just drawing parallels to what we know about the history of the house and the inhabitants there. Interesting. I stood there, watching, with the operator and a social service worker, though I could have been alone for all I cared. I felt alone. It was the most that could be done. No one would attend the funeral of a dead prostitute, let alone pay for it. All that is left of her, proof that she had lived, is her name written in the ledger of Luxbourne Cemetery, a lighter, and me. Pulling out the lighter from my jacket, I can't stop myself flicking it open to stare at the flame and to run my thumb over her name. I'm also trying to think if I've heard the name Eleanor anywhere before. I don't think so. All in all, it isn't much, but it's something. And it'll be wrong of me not to make something of myself when she would have given everything to make sure I can become anything I want to be.
Feels like I'm stuck in a nightmare right now. what I would give to have you here by my side, mother dear. To see you smiling at me, alive and as beautiful as ever. I'm afraid I'm starting to forget what your face looks like. I've already forgotten the shade of your hair.
Eleanor Chandler was a wonderful woman, though not everyone would have agreed. Not everyone had seen past her occupation, past her vices, and her illness. All they saw was a poor woman who sold her body to make ends meet and had a bastard son because of it. They didn't see the mother who worked hard to put food on the table for me, the woman who gave and gave and gave to me while expecting nothing in return. She taught me the merits of hard work, but though I loved her so I worked hard for myself. I would not be so foolish, so selfless towards people who would never give back. I learned that from the father who plucked me out of an orphanage for his own selfish gain. I pocket the letter before I can feel the urge to actually set anything ablaze. Considering my close proximity to the flowers, they would be the most likely victim of arson. Just the thought itself is blasphemous. Nevertheless, that doesn't save them from being picked, just enough to make a bouquet of the things in honor of Eleanor.
Would you be proud of me if you saw me now, Mother? Maybe. You're always so forgiving. No matter what trouble I got into, more than I deserved. Especially now.
It's been a while since I've talked to my mother like this. Been thinking of both my dear parents far too much as of late, when I shouldn't. I have a future to look forward to and the present to take care of. These memories of the past give me nothing but grief. The life of Lucille Mitchell Chandler should be nothing but a footnote in Luke Wright's non-existent autobiography. It's because of Hannah, isn't it? I worry that she is all too much like Mother that it scares me, and the thought that I am turning into my father is even more so. But even if history is so set to repeat itself, I'm not a child anymore. Content to sit aside, unable to do anything to help, and too inexperienced to think that the worst wouldn't happen. I have money to buy the best medicines and doctors if need be. She'll get better. She has to. And once we get over this little bump in the road, I can stop worrying. All will be right with the world. Unfortunately, my time alone is cut short, though.
I think those flowers look beautiful, my lord. The parlor, the room where the lady stays for her tea. It could certainly use some.
The voice is not familiar, though I'm not really one to remember such things. Interesting. Okay, so this presumably is the girl that's been haunting us, but in her sort of non-haunting state. Going with her attire, I would say that she's one of the housekeepers. Strange, considering I've sent all of the staff but Johann's away. And her face, as pretty as it is unfamiliar to me. It would be a lie if I said that it didn't set me on edge. Most would say that I cared little for my employees. That isn't entirely untrue. However, I'd like to think I know the people who work for me, especially those who would roam my home, even if it's just a face and a name. Besides, I would remember a beauty such as her. So who is this? If she's someone impersonating a household staff to get in, she's doing a bad job of it.
Didn't you get the memo? Are you new? Today is a day off. You aren't supposed to be here.
I expect poor excuses and apologies the likes of her often give, but she merely smiles.
Oh, no. I've been a servant here since you first came.
And I see no signs of lying, nor hear it in her words, yet they can't be true. But I find that I feel like I can relax. She has that sort of a smile that make one's kindness shine through, without words or action. It reaches her eyes, filling them with a strange sort of mirth, as if she's just thought of something very funny. Perhaps, had it been any other person, I would have interpreted it as a deceitful grin. But the curl of her lips and the shine of her eyes are too soft to hold any malice. She takes my silence as a sign that she can continue. And it's not like I feel any urgency to stop her. I'm not really in the mood for company, but I'm not adverse to it at the moment either. Entertaining a beauty like her, even for a little while, wouldn't hurt. It helps that she proves easy to listen to, despite how oddly she speaks.
I'm sorry. I apologize. I shouldn't have bothered you. Look at me, talking to the master of the house without even asking for permission. What will the others think? If you'll excuse me, I'll just...
I haven't driven you away yet, have I? And it's your day off. I don't see why we can't chat a bit.
Of course. If that is what you wish. As long as it does not get you into trouble with the lady.
I have a very puzzled look on my face as this is going on.
To even take time for someone as lowly as me. No wonder that everyone under the mansion's employ is so fond of you.
What? Alright, well that was the first clear lie that you told.
Though it should have no longer been a surprise to me. You have always been such a kind and loving lord.
I have to stop myself from calling her out on her shit. It's almost as if she's talking about an entirely different man. Could she be? No matter how big my ego gets, I know for a fact that I'm hardly in the running for Best Boss of the Year award, despite what my coffee mug says. The only reason that most of my staff stay is because of the decent compensation. I'm not cheap. But if she wants to lay it on thick, I'll allow it. Who wouldn't want a beautiful woman complimenting them?
I'm sure she'll be fine with this. We are just talking after all. Unless you had other things on your mind when you approached me.
God, you're terrible. The words leave my mouth before I even realize what I've said. I panic a bit. What? Though I can't get away with picking up women out in the city, sometimes even out of the country, I'm always taking care not to do so in my home or in my businesses. Not when it'll be so easy for Hannah to find out about my infidelity through these channels. Though, seriously, I still don't see what the big deal about it is. Just have an itch I need to scratch.
I know it must be amusing to see a girl flustered for a man of your stature. But please don't say such things, my lord. I saw you alone and simply thought you could use some company.
Thankfully, and I do count my lucky stars, it seems the woman takes it as a joke rather than the casual pass it was intended to be.
So how are you liking your work around the mansion? The place is wonderful, but I imagine the upkeep is ungodly with all the rooms and whatnot. I don't even want to think about how many people are on the staff roster.
Work is work, my lord. It is a way of living. A purpose from day to day. It is certainly far better than doing nothing or having no food to eat.
Yes, it is better than doing nothing or dying. That's true.
The house itself is also beautiful. There's no lack of things to look at. I'm sure you've seen those books in the study.
Oh, I don't read.
I can't read any of them yet, but if given the chance, I'm sorry. I shouldn't be thinking of those things. Especially when the rains, they might bring more work to us soon. It will definitely be much more difficult when it returns. Idling about is the least I should be doing.
I guess you can put it that way if you want to be brutally honest about the whole thing. And the rain shouldn't be a problem, hopefully. Maybe.
A little dreary, at least she doesn't beat around the bush. I like the honesty. Many would bemoan their status as a household staff, as a janitor or other menial role, and believe themselves to be for greater things. And I would not begrudge the idea that one can always get better. But one shouldn't be so discontent with what they have, either.
The rain is something I simply must get accustomed to, if I am to live here. I've not spent long in this place after all, but I have been told that it has rained in this nation since a mother's time, and their mother's time.
What?
There is little we can do about it. I am just glad to have time in the sun, even for a short while.
Isn't that the truth? Really, these sunny days have been welcome, though I can't imagine they'll last for long. Sometimes I just want to pack my things and leave for somewhere like, say, the Bahamas or whatnot. Get some sun and surf.
You up for that?
But certainly, you will return for us, won't you? This is your home, after all.
Is the whole thing that the ghost just wants somebody to live here and not leave? Abandon?
Your people, they won't be pleased if the master of the house leaves.
Of course, I can't very well leave my businesses hanging here, can I? I just wish I could actually trust people enough to go on vacation without taking work with me. I've also got to get back here if I ever want proper meals. A proper pudding is something you'll never find out there.
The woman nods in understanding, and I must say, she makes for a fine listening ear. Though what she says next gives me pause, whether she meant for me to hear it or not.
And good tea. From what the cook has been telling me, I've yet learned how to prepare one. Perhaps once I do, it would endear the lady of the house to me. I never expected her to be so unkind after what she did for me.
Yeah, okay, so it's been obvious for a while now, but she's obviously talking about the previous owners of the mansion, Charlotte and the guy who looks like Luke, whose name I don't remember. And yeah, so the whole deal was that Charlotte freed her from slavery, and now she's like working as a maid here. But yeah, we've seen enough images to know that Charlotte is not a kind person.
Though it's only if one catches her in a foul mood. I wish I knew how to avoid her anger.
I hardly doubt she means Hannah. That woman rarely has a mean bone in her body. And when she actually is nasty towards someone else, it's usually deserving enough, much like with that Rochelle woman. Hell, she even tolerates Harvey for me, even if she did admit that she doesn't quite like the man. She must mean the head housemaid, right? I have to laugh at that. Not that I have room to speak, I don't deal with her myself any more than even Johannes with a few choice words about the head hag. She's just been under the right employee when she was also head housemaid for my father. And if anyone's not going to get along with someone, it'd be that crotchety old woman. I didn't even remember her name. But the woman had been this strict upstart bitch who took one look at me, her master's bastard son, and turned her nose up, as if she were better by mere consequence of birth. That, and she absolutely loathed my very existence. Perhaps the rumors had been true. She had a miscarriage while bearing another one of dearest father's children, and she saw me as an obstacle to her being granted a better standing in life. I remember that much at least. The only reason I haven't sacked her yet is because of her competence. Also, because working under my household makes her absolutely miserable, her resignation made impossible by her pride.
Nobody really gets along with that woman. I think everyone just tolerates her because of how old she is. I mean, not to be rude or awful or anything, but she's at the age where she'll be pushing daisies soon enough.
Is she? Really, my lord? I'm sure the lady is much younger than that.
I think the thought of tormenting the young and beautiful gives her reason to live.
It does seem that way. Though I feel sorry for her. One's life should not be wasted away on hatred and anger. It is never good for the heart or the head to always carry ill thoughts. But at the least, you are here for us. We are certainly so lucky to have a lord like you. The lady even more so. The gods smile down on her. Though, if I may be honest, she is to be envied.
Even when I have my suspicions about her, she's just so easy to talk to that I've forgotten. I don't know who she is and if she's actually one of the household staff. That would explain why she would so easily give obviously wrong statements about my character. Though, if she is here for malicious reasons, she would have done more than do small talk with me by now, wouldn't she? I have so many questions. Perhaps curiosity will kill this cat.
It's strange that I've never seen you before. What's your name?
You do not remember?
I don't.
I don't believe you've mentioned it, or am I missing something?
I would really love to know your name, because I've been calling you lots of things.
You still cannot comprehend it, can you, my lord?
Her answer chips away at the good mood I'm starting to get into. I have every right to be angry at the cryptic response. She threatens insubordination with her very presence alone. But instead of hurling vitriol at the woman, I take a deep breath. I do not want my mood ruined further than it already is. Not right now, when I can let my temper take its course another time.
Whatever your name is, and no matter how long you've been working for us, that does not change the fact that you shouldn't be here. I'll call you a cab to bring you to the city if you want.
Shouldn't I? What if I do not wish to leave?
Uh-oh.
I merely desire to stay by your side and serve. Is that such a deplorable thing?
Her gaze sends chills down my spine. It's too easy to see the devotion, the obsession in her eyes. Not the good sort either, as the scrutiny makes me feel like I'm laid bare. Yeah, I think we got some hint of this back in Becca's looking up the history of this too. Or maybe it was in one of the memory fragments that we got. But they're definitely, I mean, it's also pretty obvious through this conversation. She's into, not Luke, but the sort of former master here. And you can see how that could have created some, let's say, nasty situations with Charlotte. The offness of her presence is all the more palpable with a feeling of bugs crawling on my skin, and the silence that makes it seem as if the world has stopped. Any friendly atmosphere we might have had going for us is completely forgotten. Danger. A small part in the back of my mind screams, the part that has kept me alive all these years. And in hindsight, I'd be stupid not to take heed of it. But I've grown arrogant, complacent, and content to hide behind wealth and power.
Yes, it's a deplorable thing, as you said, because I'd like to be alone now. Thank you very much. If you didn't want the day off, you should have reported to your superior. This is utterly unprofessional of you, and I shall be issuing complaints. In fact, if you know it's good for you, you should start looking for another employer.
Probably not the best thing to say here, Lick Bud. It's at my threat that the smile on her face turns tight.
I see. It escapes you still. This is unfortunate. How despairing that this misery must go on. But maybe, if you come with me, I can help you. I can...
When she reaches out for me, I recoil with a hiss, because I'm pot snakes.
How dare you lay your filthy hands on me without my permission? I am not going anywhere with you. Now step back and walk away before I have you forcibly removed.
Yep, I was just waiting for this. As if a switch had been flipped, the woman's expression turns horrific, although that may very well be the understatement of the century. She herself turns horrific. Her presence is suffocating, bearing down on me. I'm rooted on the spot through no fault of my own as my fear paralyzes.
You are too much like that vile woman. Poisoned by her rotten influence and her filthy words. But that can be remedied now that you're here. Oh, how we have waited to welcome you home. Come, my lord. The house beckons.
When her fingers grasp the back of my coat, I finally find it in me to break off into a run. I can still feel her eyes on me as I run back to the house. Take a quick look here. Okay. But I refuse to acknowledge it, let alone look back. All I need is to get away from her and make sure she stays away. If that means acting like a coward and seeking out company to keep me safe, nobody can tell me to do otherwise. Honestly, probably the most sensible reaction to this out of anyone in this cast. Bravery isn't something to be lauded if it comes along with stupidity. It must have been a sight to see the usually composed and reserved Lou Wright bursting through the doors. Not that I have much of an audience unless there are other staff members who've chosen to disregard my orders for them to leave. Really, I still doubt that woman is one of the staff. Mustering up the courage, I look back through the windows to see if she followed me. She's gone. But I don't take any chances, putting as much distance as I can between us. Woo! I get why you gasp. I mean, Johans is a scary guy. Alright, but we are going to have this conversation with Johans and try to, you know, maybe unsort some of this mystery next time. Until then, this has been Downstage Gaming. I have been your host, Josh, and I will catch you all next time.